Hi everyone, today I'm gonna share about some of my thoughts on a particular subject that is gonna be quite relevant soon. Back in school, every year on 21st July, we have this thing called the Racial Harmony Day. And back then, it's really just a day that, as students, it's gonna happen once a year, but you don't really remember what day it is. It's on 21st July because it is also the same day where the racial riots happened in 1964. And those of you've gone through secondary school, you have done like this social studies thing, you know what I'm talking about lah, more or less. But anyway, fast forward to today, Singapore actually has developed to be quite an amazing country. It's a place where we are so-called very tolerant with each other's race and religion. And the word that we use here very often is called tolerant. It kind of means that I may not really agree with your way of life, but I'm willing to accept your existence. It's kind of a good approach. I mean, considering that we don't really have a lot of outbursts of like racial problems in Singapore. And I think the government has put in a lot of laws and policies in place, to ensure that people with different race and religion are able to coexist peacefully together. So, interesting story. Recently, I was on a taxi going home, and this taxi driver, he suddenly initiated a conversation with me, and he told me this: with all this ISIS and terrorism going on, it only shows how dangerous Islam is. Now, I don't know why he suddenly bring this up and what are his motivations, but what I guess is that I think he's trying to convince me to think the same way, or that he's actually kind of looking out for people with the same belief that Islam is dangerous. Now, my first reaction was that I was actually quite surprised. Granted that it happened in a confined area inside the car, I did not expect that a stranger would just share such a discriminatory idea with me in the public. And I always thought that all this upfront racism or like discriminatory against certain religions only happens like during Trump's rally or like in the UK after the Brexit. And I told the taxi driver this: I think this thinking of yours is far more dangerous than how dangerous Islam is. Because what he is doing here is painting an entire religion or race with a broad stroke. Because he's also marginalizing all the good things that the Muslim community has done for Singapore. And if he is gonna start generating conversations like this to every single customer he have on his taxi, he's gonna start making people think that it's okay to think like this. But I thought about it, I also realized that he is actually a product of this tolerant society, because I believe that if I'm a Muslim in the car, he wouldn't have raised it up, he wouldn't want to outright discriminate someone in their face lah. So that also kind of indicate that on the surface, in Singapore, everything seems to be fine. This underlying racial tension, religious tension that will continue to build up, if people start to think like this and there's no one to come forward to say that, hey, that's not an accurate thinking, your assumptions are groundless. So I thought like maybe, I thought that I might be the one who's ignorant, or maybe that he knows a lot more than me. So basically I asked him whether he read the Quran, which is actually the sort of like the Bible for the Islam. And he just said no, because it doesn't matter to him that he doesn't fully understand the religion. He trusts his ignorant views more than anything else. I tried to convince him to think otherwise and to give things the benefit of the doubt, but I realized that he wasn't listening. People like this have a very one-dimensional way of thinking. You can never win an argument with them because there's no grounds to their argument. Like, you can't fight their facts when the facts are not even there. They pick facts and opinions to support their belief, and they refuse to internalize any form of counter-arguments. And naturally, people fear what they don't understand, and people behave and act irrationally when they are in fear. So, what can we do? What can we do to go beyond being a tolerant society and, become a society that is more accepting and one that is less ignorant? So first things first, I realized that there are certain group of people where it is impossible to convince them to think think otherwise. Rather than trying to spend so much effort trying to convince these people who are refusing to listen, why not we ensure that there is less of these people around? What this means is that we must ensure that our younger generation always have access to education. It also means that we need our kids to have exposure to other race and religion, and they need to have interactions with these other groups of people. The government, of course, needs to continue to play an active role to, ensure all these things are happening. And individuals like us have the power to actually influence the people around us, like our friends and our family. So think about it this way, with each generation, you get lesser and lesser people who are racist. We are able to have a society that embraces diversity more. The next thing is, don't take this for granted, which is this current state where we are considered, I would say, harmonious lah. And I think we hear this so much, from our teachers, from political leaders, to tell us, don't take things for granted. But it's true, you see, don't be numb to all this thinking. Creating a harmonious society where you don't get judged for how you look and what you believe in really requires active effort by everybody. Because the human tendency is to be racist. It wants us to feel comfortable with people that, we share the same thoughts or we look the same, and outcast people who don't. So with all these, discriminatory tendencies that we have inside us, it is very important that we think before we say anything or do anything. Never assume that racism is not an issue here in Singapore, and you start making racist jokes that you don't think that people will get offended, because a lot of these jokes sometimes can, cross the line without you noticing it, and you will end up hurting someone also without knowing it. We are a more intelligent society, so we need to act like one, and we need to not give in to our primal instincts to discriminate. Because when you make quick judgments and you stereotype an entire race or religion based on certain facts and opinions that you nitpick, it only shows how narrow-minded you are, how ignorant you are, and how small of a human you are. If any of your friends and family members, make sweeping statements, it is your responsibility to come forward and correct their way of thinking. Singapore needs to move beyond being a tolerant society to become an embracing one. A tolerant society will allow ignorant thinking to continue to fester, and it is only a matter of time these tensions will build up and ends up dividing our country, like what is happening in the US and in the UK right now. But always remember, don't fight hate with hate. I know there's a lot of times where, when people make racism comments, the first instinct is to shame them. When was the last time where you saw two persons fighting? They're shouting at each other, and one person decided that, hey, maybe he is right. After him shouting at me for like 5 minutes. No, it doesn't work that way. You have to fight hate with patience, with logic, and if someone starts screaming at you and you give very calm, composed responses, it only shows how stupid and how ignorant they are when they cannot even justify why they think a certain way. So remember, discrimination against race and religion will never go away, but the act of it can. So let us keep trying. Hey guys, there's so many things that's happening around in the world right now, and it's sometimes just make you think like there's nothing I can do in this so-called bigger picture. Well, but the truth is there is some things you can do, and you can always start small as individuals. All these kind of ideas can expand and influence people around you. So yep, I guess that is my motivation in making this video. I was thinking of trying to do something funny about this, but I feel that a lot of the things that I want to say or convey will get lost in me trying to be funny, but not so funny. So yep, if you haven't done so, please subscribe, follow us on Facebook, and follow me on Instagram. So yep, see you guys next week.